Hi there, and welcome back to How to Read Wine Labels. Let's dive straight into other common quality terms. Superior or its equivalent in local language typically means a slightly higher alcohol by volume plus a minimum maturation period. This term is regulated in certain parts of France and Italy, such as that of Bordeaux and Beaujolais, and all Italian DOCG wines. These wines are a bit more special because they were harvested when the grapes were riper, which translates into more concentrated aromas and flavors. You'll spot it on Italian wines with a very serious looking DOCG paper seal on the bottle neck, which means that the Italian government guarantees its quality and authenticity. In addition to the wine originating from a specified DOC, DOCG wines have to be approved by a committee through stringent quality measures such as laboratory analysis and tasting tests. Both of these are part of Italy's top tier of protected designation of origin wines. Grand Vin. It's commonly found on Bordeaux and Burgundy labels. It's not officially regulated, but it does mean that it's the top wine of the chateau, producer, estate, or brand. It's common for producers to have several wines within their portfolio that's made every year, and it's their way of saying that this wine is the rock star of our family. You may sometimes hear terms such as second or third wine of the chateau, more commonly in Bordeaux, and that's exactly what it means. It's the second or third most important wine out of all the wines produced. This gives us an indication as to the style of wine, its color, aromas, flavors, and even tannins. It can also set our expectations as to how smooth the texture of the wine should be, plus how integrated the aromas and flavors of the oak are. Wines that are matured in new barrels will gain more toasty, smoky aromas from the wood, and depending on the type of oak, different flavors such as vanilla, coconut, and sweet spices. If you'd like to learn all about wine aging and what oak can do for wine, do check out my video up here. When it comes to wine aging, Italy and Spain take the cake. Italy's got Reserva on the label, which means that the wine has been aged for a minimum of 2 years, but some appellations go over and beyond this. Barolo, for example, is like the wise old sage of wines, aging for a minimum of 38 months. But if it's got Reserva on its label, that's a whopping 5 years plus. But Barolos are only second to Brunello di Montalcino's. These wines take their time to become the best versions. We're talking 5 years and 6 if it's a Reserva. Meanwhile, in Spain, they follow national laws that require wines to be aged a certain number of years. Crianza gets a chill 2 years, Reserva waits for 3 years, and Gran Reserva, with the patience of a saint, ages for a solid 5 years. It's like the wine is whispering, I'm sitting here, getting better with age just for you, so wait for me patiently. These terms are most commonly used for wines from Rioja, Toro, and Ribera del Duero. In countries where there are no regulations, the term reserve or its local equivalent is a bit like a wild card. It's like a wink and a nudge from the winemaker suggesting that they've given the wine some extra TLC. I wouldn't buy it unless there are extra descriptions such as the wine was aged in new French oak barrels for 15 months. Then, of course, it was indeed given extra tender loving care. One country that has a very different legal definition for reserve is Austria. Here, reserve means that it's a dry wine with a minimum of 13% alcohol by volume. Speaking of Austria, let's hop over to neighboring Germany, where they both share a unique system of classifying their wines based on the ripeness, that is the sugar levels of the grapes at the time of harvest. The moment you see this term, Prädikats wine, that means that it's the top quality tier for German and Austrian wines. That said, it's usually in fine print, but its category will always be prominently displayed. There are 6 categories in order of increasing levels of sweetness at the time of harvest. They are Cabinet, Spätlese, Auslese, Buren Auslese, Ice wine, and Trockenbeeren Auslese. There tends to be a general misconception that all these wines are sweet, but from Cabinet up to Auslese, these wines can actually be completely dry. German wine laws are very strict and requires more information to be displayed on wine labels, be it the front, back, or even side, than most other countries. Part of this would be to specify if the wine is dry, trocken, semi-dry, halbtrocken, or sweet, süß. From Beer and Auslese onwards, which translates into select berry harvest, all the wines will be sweet to luscious. All these categories require the grapes to be overripe and hand-harvested to select only the healthiest and best quality berries. Talking about sweetness, some of the terms in other languages include dolce, and doux. If you've ever found yourself in a situation where you've been disappointed because you were expecting the still or sparkling wine to be dry, but it was actually sweet or sweetish, here's a quick tip for you. Demi, semi, or halb, it means that there's some sweetness to the wine, although it won't be sweet. If you spot a German wine with a gold capsule, known as gold capsule literally, it's like the wine is saying, I'm not just any wine, I'm extra special. Whilst it's not regulated by law, it implies that the wine has some extra special qualities. It could be that it's more intense, sweeter, or so exclusive that it's only available at fancy auctions or through limited allocations. Vieille Vigne is commonly seen on French labels such as Burgundy and Alsace, and in German it's Alter Ribbon. Other than the Barossa and voluntary members of South Africa's Old Vine Project, which defines old vines to be a minimum of 35 years old, this term is unregulated. On South African wines, you can spot these through the Certified Heritage Seal with the date of vineyard planting. You might be wondering, what's the big deal with old vines? Why don't we want younger vines? And we could probably say that it's like us human beings. As vines age, they become wiser and produce better quality, lesser grapes, but better quality. That's the general consensus when it comes to old vines, although it doesn't mean that younger vines cannot produce great fruit. This means that the grapes were from a single plot of land and implies a higher quality, as it should reflect specific characteristics of the terroir. This means that the grapes come from vineyards that are controlled by the winery. The winery merely needs to have control over the vineyards and do not need to own them. They may be renting vineyards where they have their own employees growing the grapes, or they could be paying vineyard owners to grow the grapes according to their standards. In general, when a winery has control over all processes from grape growing to winemaking and bottling, there are more stringent measures, and thus the wines would be of better quality. But again, it's not regulated by law. This is regulated by law in America by the TTB. All the grapes used to make the wine must have been grown in land that was owned or controlled by the winery, and both the vineyard and the winery must have been located within the boundaries of the viticultural area. All processes must have been executed at the winery and at no other places. You may also see grown, produced and bottled by on the label, and in French, mise en bouteille au château or domaine, which all means the same thing, estate bottled. Here are some of the similar statements that you may find on wine labels. For those of us who want more holistic and natural products, here are some terms to look out for. This means a more natural approach to grape growing and wine making so that the grapes and the terroir can feature their magic. Chemicals and additives are only applied as necessary and in minimal quantities, and holistic alternative measures are always prioritized. This is the strictest certification when it comes to natural and holistic agriculture, with zero tolerance for chemicals. The entire vineyard and winery is viewed as a single unit, and all activities from pruning and harvest to fermentation and tastings are synchronized with the different lunar cycles. And if you'd like to learn more about this unique agricultural system, do check out our Wines Made by the Moon and Stars up here. Unless there is some form of organic certification on the bottle, such as the Euro leaf or USDA organic logo, read your labels clearly. Sometimes the label may say, made from organic grapes, which means the grapes were organically grown, but the wine making may not have been organic. Sustainable viticulture, which balances the 3 P's of sustainability: planet, which is the equivalent of the environment, people, how it benefits society, and of course, profit. So what can you do if there's no mention of the grape variety or varieties? The first thing I'd suggest is to turn the bottle over and check its back or even side labels. So producers try to make things easier for consumers these days and may add such details. And if there's really nothing, then Google or the store help will be your temporary best friend. Here are some of the most famous regions and their varietal or varieties or key grapes. If it's a Burgundy red, it can only be a Pinot Noir and nothing else. And if it's a Burgundy white, it's only Chardonnay, unless you see a Bourgogne or Burgundy aligoté, then it's made from the aligoté grape. Most people are unaware that in addition to Chardonnay, Burgundy has another native grape, which is aligoté, but you'll always see aligoté prominently on the label. And in the extended Burgundy region of Beaujolais, this is the land of Gamay. Bordeaux reds will always be Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot driven, plus a few others such as Carmenère, which is the half-sibling which accidentally became the pride and joy of Chile, and their mum Cabernet Franc plus Petit Verdot and Malbec. If they're from the left bank of Bordeaux, then they're focused on the mighty Cabernet Sauvignon, which has small berries but with very thick skins. So the wines are bigger, more structured with a lot more tannins, which also means that you'd get more of that drying sensation. Now, if the wine is from the right bank, then expect the wine to be fruitier, fleshier, and softer because the main star is Mini Merlot. Most people think that Bordeaux is the land of red wine, and yes, it is, but there are also white wines, both dry and sweet. White Bordeaux's are generally blends of Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc, and sometimes with a splash of Muscadel. Over in Italy, the reds of Tuscany are driven by Sangiovese, Italy's premier red grape, and blended with international varieties such as Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and Shiraz. They might also feature as an individual variety, such as in Brunello di Montalcino's. In Spain, the most important reds are all about Tempranillo. Think Rioja, Ribera del Duero, and Toro. And if it's a white Rioja, it's based on its native grape Macabeo, also known as Viura. Now, with German and Alsatian wines, you never have to worry about grape varieties because they're always prominently displayed. In fact, Alsace is the one and only French region that always displays the grape variety on the bottle. And a part of it has to do with the fact that Alsace used to be bounced back and forth between the boundaries of France and Germany. So there you have it, a crash course in how to read wine labels that you've graduated from. Well done. If you've learned from and enjoyed this session, be sure to give me a like, leave me a comment, and stay tuned for more in the upcoming weeks. There's been a lot going on. For example, Jackie Chan mistaking my arm for the ginormous stick that we were playing fetch with. So these days, I'm trying to upload a new video once every 2 weeks. So until our next rendezvous, here's to amazing health.